Stakeholders in the Nigerian education ecosystem were stoked recently when the interventionist-in-chief, the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TETFund, broke its own records in two parts in its unflagging drive towards making the nation's tertiary education take its pride of place amongst its peers in the world, and in the same breath ensuring its conformity with global best practices. For the first time ever in the history of the agency, the highest intervention amounts were granted to all public third-tier institutions, namely universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education. Again, for the first time, and in radical departure from the past, those allocations were made a few days into a new calendar year. The Executive Secretary, Architect Soni S.T. Echiono, was full of praise for the Commander-in-Chief, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR, who in his unyielding resolve at rejigging the Nigerian education sector, approved the sum of 683 billion naira for distribution to the institutions in good time so they can kickstart their yearly plans at the earliest. He also expressed the fund's gratitude to the Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Maman SAN, who since his assumption of office in August last year has been working assiduously in bringing the President's vision to life. The 683 billion naira approved for the distribution across all the public tertiary institutions this year dwarfed the 320 billion naira signed off and distributed to them in July last year. According to Architect Echiono, the institutions are expected to take advantage of the early release of the intervention lines to start the process of getting their project on stream and in good time too.
Based on this approval, each university shall get for the year 2024 intervention cycle a total of 1.9 billion. This comprises 1.65 billion as annual direct disbursements and 250 million as zonal interventions. Similarly, each polytechnic shall get 1.16 billion, comprising 1.01 as annual direct disbursements and 150 million as zonal intervention. While each college of education shall get 1.398 billion, comprising 1.248 billion as annual direct disbursements and 150 million as zonal intervention. It is pertinent to note that this represents a very significant increase above our last year's intervention and indeed every other year since the inception of the fund. So we are grateful to all the key actors, notably the Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Maman, OONSAN, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, the Chairman and members of the Senate and House Committees on TETFund, and the Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service for their unwavering support towards the sustainable improvement of the collection.
The Executive Secretary also called on the heads of beneficiary institutions to ensure judicious and effective utilization of the 2024 intervention allocation to make the much-needed impact in their respective institutions.
We are hitting the ground running in compliance with Mr. President's directive that we ensure that our beneficiary institutions get actual impact from these interventions. The other reason, of course, is because a significant proportion of our interventions are for physical infrastructure. And that's what we call the construction cycle, the construction season. Better construction activities take place during the dry season, when you don't have minimal disruptions, the ground is not too wet, and so on. And we are running against time because the rains will begin to come in some parts of the country by March. And there is also some period for procurement. You have to allow for the procurement cycle to run. So we want to be able to get off the ground before the rains set in, and that's why we're starting early. And our charge to all the beneficiary institutions is that they should quickly tidy up their proposals to come around for their AIPs, and also to advertise their projects. I believe, and I keep insisting, that open competitive bidding should be the default mode of procurement. That way you get competition, you get the best prices.
TETFund has always been lauded by the wide spectrum of Nigerians and foreigners for transforming the physical infrastructural landscape of the nation's tertiary institutions. In fact, year in, year out, projects are always being commissioned in all the 6 geopolitical zones in the country. Still, the fund is not relenting but stepping up in its purposeful pursuit of making the academic environment in the nation's institutions conducive to learning more and more. In this special edition of Sustaining Strategic Partnership, highlighting landmark achievements of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund in the last 24 months, the Executive Secretary, Architect Soni St. Echiono, touched extensively on the agency's various plans for the tertiary education sector and how the latter can be utilized to transform the socio-economic landscape of Nigeria. Apart from allocations granted to each tertiary institution under 2023 intervention cycle, for instance, the fund also made the sum of 30 billion naira available to 6 universities, 6 polytechnics, and 6 colleges of education under 8 special high-impact intervention SHIP program.
For the special high-impact projects alone, we are budgeting about 96 billion. And as I did say on the occasion, we have about 36 beneficiaries. Of those 36, 12 will be universities, and each of them are getting 4 billion. That's 48 billion already. And the remaining, we also have 12 institutions, 6 each from the polytechnics and from the colleges of education. And each of those 2 are getting 2 billion. So by the time you multiply that by the number of beneficiary institutions, you find that we are going to be getting about 96 billion under special high impact projects alone. Of course, there are some other things we are doing that are also of significant impact. And these include the Senate buildings we are going to be undertaking in the University of Ibadan and University of Benin this year. So, and each of them are going to be getting about 5 billion each to do that. Then we have a whole number of institutions that are also getting take-off grants to assist them effectively take off, about 7 to 8 of them. So in terms of high impact projects, we are in the neighborhood of about 150 to 160 billion.
The fact that TETFund places a high premium on sponsoring academic staff of public tertiary institutions for higher education attainment and capacity building as a way of improving the overall quality of teaching in the classroom is widely recognized and no doubt bodes well with stakeholders in the tertiary education subsector. However, in the last few years, the agency has noted a spike in the rate of abscondment of overseas scholars, which in the main negates the terms governing their engagement and also runs counter to the objective of the commendable initiative, especially if viewed from the prism of the huge amounts expended on their training yearly. The fund, as a way of arresting the inglorious trend, has instituted a number of measures which the Executive Secretary and his team believe will ensure that the policy is further protected and perpetrators brought to book.
First, we've taken a holistic review of the program. And generally, I can confirm to you that the consensus is that we focus more on local training than foreign training. We mean that we've identified many of our institutions where faculties exist in terms of supervisors, in terms of experience, professionals and professors in various fields who can actually supervise these postgraduate PhD programs. And we want to do a lot of it locally. But we will also continue because education is universal and there are new trends, some of which are not even available to us. So we'll continue to sponsor candidates abroad, but those ones will be in specialized areas where we want them to go and learn new things and bring to us. And we also want to be able to exchange ideas and methods and processes. So we'll continue to do that. But in trying to reduce the impact of those absconding, first, we have some very rigid programs now. Rather than throw it open to scholars to pick programs for any institution of their choice and all over the world, we have specific institutions where we have MOUs. And with these institutions, part of the provisions is that they will ensure that those scholars come back. The other bit is that those who are already there, we are working with our embassies and the embassies of those countries where they are here to ensure that they won't have a hiding place, that they will honor their obligations because they are bonded. For new applications, we have tightened the bonding process. Your guarantor must be somebody that can be held responsible. We've also improved even the selection process. Some of these people previously were just nominated by the respective heads of institutions. And because they have a 5-year tenure and they go away, once their godfathers or whoever is no longer in office, they don't feel an obligation to the institution. But if we do a collegiate system, where this wells from the academic planning programs and goes through the relevant committees and you are nominated, you become a child of the community and you will become more responsible. This is our expectation.
TETFund has revealed plans to back the centers of excellence located in some of the nation's third-tier educational institutions in moving up to the next layer of top-notch African centers of excellence. The move will allow Nigerian tertiary institutions to prioritize the development of specific programs to support their human capital components as a way of enhancing robust deliveries on their mandates. As at today, the Centers of Excellence conceptualized by the TETFund Board of Trustees can stand shoulder to shoulder with other international and global renowned centers of excellence. The aim of selection is to address a specific national development challenge through the preparation of professionals, applied research, and associated outreach activities to partners and communities.
Centers of excellence in various fields. Sokoto is doing very well in oncology and medicine. We have those in ICT, we have those in agriculture, we have those in the human sciences, and basically the objective is to provide solutions to national problems, promote and develop prototypes, promote research, promote innovation, so that we can develop products and services, we link them to industry, and these can now be produced to scale, commercialized, and consumed by us to improve our standard of living, to improve our living conditions, add some profit to them, so that way we are growing the economy, we are creating business opportunities, we are even affording our researchers and teachers very sustainable income rather than waiting for salaries and so on. So these centers of excellence, we have 27 of them. We are still adding a few more as we move on. And this year, to also assist them, where we realize that some of them are not operating optimally because of deficiency, some is just power supply, some have additional equipment, they're having to go abroad to do some of their tests and all that. That is why in this year we are promoting we're going to be establishing 4 multi-purpose laboratories where we have state-of-the-art facilities and you can bring samples from the same sample we take abroad. Very soon they'll be bringing them from other parts of Africa here to do, and we're going to have 4 of those start this year.
As the knowledge economy is driving and shaping the course of global events, it behoves on any forward-looking nation to constantly rejig its information and communication technology ICT architecture as a way of sharpening its competitive edge in today's ever-dynamic world. TETFund, a visionary and vibrant organization, has never hidden its determination in backing the rejuvenation of ICT infrastructure in the tertiary education subsector. The agency's ICT support in monetary terms in the last 2 years marked the single largest increase to any of its intervention lines, underscoring the importance of ICT as an enabler of teaching, learning, research, and development. The fund is full of optimism that when blackboard enhancements and tertiary education research applications and services (TERAs) become fully operational, students and staff of the nation's public tertiary institutions will be in shape to access general resources to support learning, conduct online tests and quizzes, submit assignments, and foster electronic grading, which allows for immediate review of grades and performance tracking.
Let me start with the personal testimony, if you like. I'm doing a PhD program abroad, and I was pleasantly surprised when I introduced to them the fact that we have terrace. These are very few countries that have advanced in this area. Countries like Finland, South Korea, Japan, some institutions in China now, Sweden, and quite a few of them. And for us to have embraced this, there's no country in Africa, this is one time now we can say even Rwanda, Kenya, Morocco, and Egypt that we used to worry about, we're ahead of them in this field. Being able to aggregate all the resources that we need for our educational system, and then including issues like anti-plagiarism checkers, including access to all the libraries and other federated resources, that our students now will be able to compete with other students across the globe. I was supposed to be given access as a student to some resources, and they were surprised to know that these were already accessible to me because I'm registered on Terrace. And they were wondering how I had this access on. So I had to validate that yes, I had access through this, and I sent the information to them. And it was a wow situation. And then, like, if you have this in your country, how come you are coming, to us? So this is something, again, where I say feedback for me, meaning that the opportunities are boundless. We can leverage on technology to improve quality of our education, to expand access. So we don't need to worry about the confines of classrooms, the limitations we face. Because given the high rate of our population growth, number of young people in this country seeking education, technology and other delivery systems that are supported by ICT is the way forward. And we are doing a whole lot to support this.
The focus of TETFund on research and development is patently visible to every stakeholder in the education sector. The agency, in collaboration with Innovate Hub, launched the widely acclaimed TED Fair in December 2022. The first set graduated from the program in December last year after undergoing an intensive one-year training and extensive support, all in a bid to get their inventions ultimately to the marketplace. The agency plans to make the 2024 TED Fair edition bigger, better and bolder, according to TETFund's executive secretary.
Most countries that have developed across the globe rely on the intellectual resources, their intellectual assets, the capacity of their people to create, to innovate, to make products and services. And this is why we're in a knowledge economy. So this is the competitive tool now. Relying on fossil fuel and other natural resources is no longer sustainable. And Nigeria has comparative advantage. Very young population. Majority of our students are of our population are youthful, and we are also naturally gifted and hardworking. We support our institutions to carry out what we call institutional-based research that focuses on the needs of the immediate communities. But we also have a national research fund. If you notice, we announced 5 billion to 185 researchers and research groups in various 13 different thematic areas, from energy efficiency to improve storage of agricultural produce to preservation, to how we optimally utilize our natural resources, to how we improve our system, our processes in various ways. And all of these, our challenge this year is not take these from the shelf, develop prototypes, link them with industry, potential investors, let them invest, and let them transform these to products that they can sell and market. And that way, it will be a win-win. We will consume those products. Me and you doing just like Japanese people are busy manufacturing yam pounders for us. They don't eat yam in their country. We should be the ones solving those problems. When we have our own product to do it, it will make it easier. You don't have to use your physical strength. Our agriculture is almost an unexplored field. We are still using manual means of cultivation. Our agriculture is still at subsistence level. We don't need to do that. Once you introduce the concept of using high inputs, good quality seeds, good agronomic practices, and these are all opportunities for growth. And our researchers have already done that. They are delivering new varieties of seeds. They are developing new ways of making these things, solving agricultural problems, whether it's tomato that get rotten quickly, or whether it's, and this is, I'm not talking about genetics alone, I'm talking about actual improvements in yield, in quality. The technological aspect is even where we are now focusing on, innovation. New equipment, new machines, let us tap into the existing market. Why can't we make our cameras locally? Why are we importing phones? They should either come in here, and then we should also begin to make our own Nigerian versions of these facilities. And when we begin to do that, we have an appetite, we have a capacity to consume them. And that will be the only way to grow our economy, create jobs, create wealth, and this is how countries develop. So again, as I said, we are at the heart of the efforts of bridging that gap, the gaps that exist between our researchers, the intellectual content, which they express through the research they undertake, and industry that should be fed by the academia through new innovations and new ideas and new improvements in what they do and how they do it. So we are bridging that gap, providing the necessary seed funds for them to be able to develop prototypes. We are helping them to patent their products and discoveries, and then linking them up. So TED Fair 2024 will be massive.
Experts, both local and international, students, teachers, various unions in and outside of the education sector, parents, governments at all levels, and practically any interested party have all witnessed the giant leaps in deliverables from TETFund in the last 2 years. From getting myriad MOUs signed with relevant institutions home and abroad, driving the initiative of setting up a national academic research repository, the National Knowledge Bank, putting in place the inventive high book development program, to making institutional research a sine qua non of rapid socioeconomic development and growth, honing the triple helix model, and initiating the employability benchmarking program, to mention just a few, there are evidently more initiatives of mass deliverables, IMDs, in the offing to be deployed by TETFund in the immediate, medium, and long term, as expressed by architect Soni S.T. Echiono.
We are having a multidimensional approach to development of our institutions and also of our society, because we need to link that. We've done a skills gap analysis within our country, and we are working with relevant regulatory agencies on this to see where are the areas of needs of our people. How do we meet those needs profitably for the economy, for our potential graduates? And in doing that, what facilities do we need to support that? So one of the things we are doing, as I said, we are now having entrepreneurship centers in our polytechnics and in our colleges of education. And we're having innovation hubs and parks. This is to harness the huge potential in ICT and new technology in our institutions. That is a major area we are going to be expanding to. Also, the current Minister for Education has a pet project. And he said, having a university administrator himself, we have so many laboratories and workshops in our institutions that are not working optimally. So a huge sum, 25 billion, is going to go into upgrade of workshops and laboratories in these institutions. And we want to guarantee that they have constant power. So again, a whole new initiative is coming in the area of sustainable power. We want to make our institutions competitive, that we will now begin to attract. I got the feedback this morning, and I was very pleased that one of our institutions came in and said they are now getting foreign students from Gambia, coming out to register, and they are receiving the first batch next month. So I was very pleased with that, because this used to be the practice in the colonial period. We need to come back to that. We make our institutions attractive. Let's attract both students and faculty from other parts of the world, because education is universal. That is where we got the word university from. So we should be able to do this and compete. You will see the ranking of our institutions will go up. You will see that we'll be able to even redress this one-way brain drain that we are getting. The others will be rushing to come back. And then we will have the capacity to produce in huge numbers to scale those we need to service our economy.
The Tertiary Education Trust Fund is certainly on a mega mission The agency is living the creed of German-born spiritual teacher and self-help author Eckhart Tolle, who believes the power for creating a better future is contained in the present moment. You create a good future by creating a good present. Definitely, every discerning mind will agree that TETFund is creating a good present, and in doing so, laying solid planks for a good future, not only for the tertiary education sector, but for the Nigerian nation, her citizens, and indeed successive generations.
Thank you.